Hello, hi, positive vibes, good day. Today we are going to be looking at the science of racialism or scientific racism, biological racism, whatever you want to call it. But what is this, you may ask? Well, this can be defined as the idea you can use empirical, real-world evidence to support and justify racism and racial inferiority or superiority. So, to give you an example of what scientific racism is, you might say that somebody else might say, actually not you, somebody else might say that black people are inferior to white people because they have smaller brains and are therefore less intelligent, which is actually a scientific theory that we're going to be looking at later on in this video. Before I get into this video, please subscribe, maybe leave a like and a comment. I'm trying to post more regularly, so I would really appreciate the support. Okay, so the way that I have structured this video is firstly, we're going to look at where these ideas came from. Secondly, what are the negative effects? And then why are they still relevant today? Because racialism is now shunned by modern day scientists. And of course, we're going to do this through the medium of art, which is my favorite. So, I've just given you guys the definition, which is basically the use of science and biology to justify racist beliefs. But where did these ideas come from? There wasn't just one individual who curated this, but there were a number of hugely influential people who pushed this drive towards racialism. There were other factors that affected this, such as the culture at the time, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on the individuals who pushed for this. Okay, so the first person that we're going to be talking about is Bernier. Probably pronouncing that wrong because he is French, but never mind. He's important because in 1684 he published a brief essay where he divided humans into things he called races. According to him, there were 4 races, and guys, this is the wildest thing that I've read. So, according to him, there were firstly Europeans, North Africans, Middle Easterns, Indians, Southeast Asians, and the Americas. All of those people were just one race, which, yes, I know, again, is so wild to hear. Secondly were Sub-Saharan Africans, which are basically Africans that live in the southern area. Then third was North and East Asians, and finally were the Sami people, who we never really talk about. I actually had to Google who they were, and at this point he didn't create a hierarchy. However, he did make derogatory comments about the Sami people because he described them as ugly and compared them to animals. To give you guys an example of how wild the beliefs were, I shouldn't say wild, but how different the beliefs were, Boyle, who was another important person, believed that no matter how different all the races are, we all came from the same place. He believed that white people were the original race and we all came from Adam and Eve. I'm not going to talk about each and every individual theory because then my video would be very long, but if you look down in the description below, I did find a very good Wikipedia article that lists all the different people and all of their donations to our current understanding of race. Anyways, to give you guys a summary of the rest of them that existed, I'm just going to share a few ideas that were out there. Again, if you want to know who had these ideas, I have got a link down below to a Wikipedia page that is very organized and systematic. I would recommend it. So, there came other ideas that suggested a lot of negative, derogatory things, such as black skin being a disease, and there was a dichotomy created between the beautiful white race and the ugly black race. People would believe that Black people were less capable of emotions and feeling less pain, which is very relevant to the end of my video. Science was also used to argue that Black skulls had bigger teeth and larger jaws, and thus showed that they were most closely related to apes or monkeys. Samuel Morton collected skulls from all around the world and compared them to each other. He argued that a larger skull meant a larger brain, which therefore meant higher intelligence. In his studies, he found that white people had the largest skulls, then Native Americans, and then Blacks. So his conclusion was therefore that white people were most intelligent and Black people were least intelligent. I could really go on, but I think you guys sort of know the main ideas that were around at that time. Okay, so we're going to go on to what were the negative effects, or what are the negative effects of scientific racialism, now that we kind of have a basic understanding of what it is. These ideas were used to justify slavery, arguing that Black people were a subspecies and ex-slaves were becoming extinct because they couldn't handle the demands of freedom. Let me give you a very interesting case study that I found that demonstrates the negative effects of scientific racialism. This is the story of John Brown and Dr. Thomas Hamilton, which literally sounds like a horror story. And can I just say as well, this is my first time hearing this story. I don't know if any of you guys had heard of it before. For those of us who didn't know, Brown was a slave who was lent to Dr. Hamilton, who was a physician obsessed with proving the differences between Black and white people. He would constantly scar him with blisters in order to try and draw up his dark skin. And another crazy thing about this story is that back then he was a respected physician whose racist ideas, such as Black people having a high tolerance for heat, were presented as fact in legitimized scientific journals. When people believe that Black people have weaker lungs that can be strengthened through hard work, it makes it so hard for people to progress when it's presented as scientific fact. And that to me is why the science of racialism is extremely dangerous. With everything that I've been talking about through this video so far, it is so much deeper than what I have explained, so I would highly recommend that you guys do your own research, and also I have some links down below as well if you are interested. We are going to move on to the third question, which is, why is this still relevant today? Why does this matter today if scientists now reject the idea of scientific racialism? And I'm going to explain that to you with just one study, which I think is extremely relevant, and I will also have it linked down below. The American Medical Association published a study in 2013 called Pain and Ethnicity. Scientific racialism before used to make the argument that Black people felt less pain and they felt pain differently to white people, which was obviously used in a negative way, but that was the argument that they made. So the study I'm quoting makes the assertion that Black people are less likely to get proper medical treatment for their pain compared to white people and other races. Black people are more likely to receive lower doses of pain medication despite higher pain scores. They are more likely to wait longer for pain medication in emergency rooms. They had their pain medications met less frequently in hospice care. I could go on, and again, I would suggest you read this study, but the basic overview from this study is that Black people are in medical settings receiving less attention for their pain, which is an effect of scientific racialism, these ideas that we have buried inside of our minds. I do just want to quote one more study. There was a study done in 2016 that looked at 222 white medical students, and it found that they still held beliefs that Black people felt less pain and that their nerve endings were less sensitive. These studies are a demonstration of the long-term effects of scientific racialism and why it's still relevant today. In that study as well, I read that African Americans are most likely to attribute pain to internal reasons and less likely to ask for help, and that just blows my mind completely. And what is the solution? Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not a scientist. I don't have in-depth knowledge. Like, everything I get is just from what I've learned from researching personally. I think it's something that we can all reflect on, especially if there are any people who are currently pursuing medicine or who want to pursue it in the future. It's just something to keep in mind. Personally, I think we can all try and do whatever we can. So for me, that's going through the medium of art, which is something that I love to do. And finally, I wanted to talk about my drawing, which is my medium of expressing everything. So with the drawing, typically I would redraw racist art, and the racist art I was looking at for this one is the medical drawings. As per usual, at the beginning of my TikTok, if you guys haven't seen that, I have a link down below, but at the beginning of my TikTok, I showed some racist scientific drawings that they used to have back in the day, and there was this really interesting one of this guy who had blue skin and he was next to a monkey, and then there was other people on the opposite side. So I decided to choose that one. I tried to recreate like the old rustic notebook feel. I had the little squares going around and the circles and the lines, and I just had human written everywhere. I also had at the bottom human, and it says, "I'm only a human being," which very much to me echoes the sentiment that I wanted to echo. It's kind of sarcastic and very obvious and satirical. So yeah, I really like the way this turned out as well. I never usually draw side profiles, but that was a very good experience. I thought it would turn out horribly because I don't, but I really like the way that it turned out. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Thank you so much for watching my video. Congratulations to anybody who made it to the end. Again, I would really appreciate a subscribe, a like, a comment. Don't be a stranger. If you have anything you want to add, let me know down below. If you have any corrections you want to make as well, just let me know down below. Bye!